Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Black Sails episode review right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Black Sails episode reviews. And this is going to be my review of Season 1, Episodes 4 and Episode 5. Now, I'm sure many of you wanted to know what happened with the episode 4 review last week. After viewing the episode, I pretty much made a decision call. I didn't think, aside from a handful of things worth mentioning, I didn't really think that last week's episode provided enough material to validate a full video review. However, now after seeing this week's episode, seeing as how what happened last week, what happened this week, now I got a lot of stuff to talk about. So I hope you guys are looking forward to, hanging in there with me for this video, because I don't know, this might be a long one. We'll see. Anywho, but let's go ahead and let's jump into episode 4. The handful of things I wanted to mention, I'm going to get those off just straight off the bat. Let's get into those. And the first thing is going to be the mystery of Miss Barlow that we finally saw unveiled in episode 4. Now, I will say, after learning about her backstory, my perception of the character has changed, and this is why. I liked Miss Barlow from jump, because she had the whole, mystique and the intrigue, and we didn't know about her, and there was the whole mystery and whatnot. And for the most part, we couldn't really figure her out as a character. You know what I mean? Like. Of course, we heard her speak, we saw her act, but we never really got inside her head. We never really got a good grasp of who she was as a character. Who she was. Not what she was. Not a role she was playing. I'm talking about who she actually was as a character. And one of the reasons why I feel indifferent about her now is because, technically speaking, we still don't. This is what I mean. In episode 4, we get 2 stories about her. About the story where Flint took the crew against this merchant ship, and apparently it was to fulfill some type of personal vendetta for Miss Barlow, right? And then the second is when Mr. Guthrie is talking to her towards the end of the episode, and he's the one that tells her, like, hey, I know who you are and I know your story. And of course, she was married to this lord. She had an affair with Captain Flint. Her husband ended up committing suicide out of grief, and then of course she just ran off and shacked up with Flint. But here's the thing about both those stories. They're both hearsay. Keep in mind that. They're both hearsay. They're both stories that we find out from other characters that they find out from other characters, because Billy finds out about it from one of the other crew members, and then Mr. Guthrie said that he learned about it from, I believe, it would have been Miss Barlow's father-in-law is the one who told him. So, like I said, it's all hearsay. Not once. If I remember in episode 4, does she really confirm anything? When in her conversation with Mr. Guthrie, Miss Barlow doesn't confirm nor deny a thing that's said about her. And then, like I said, there aren't many moments where we get inside her head. You know what I mean? Outside of that one scene at the beginning of the episode when she has her argument with Flint. That's the only real time. And that wasn't really saying much. So I don't know what to think about it. I really don't. Your guess is as good as mine. Like I said, as of right now, I'm kind of indifferent about her. Cause I just don't know. I don't know what to think. I really don't. Alright, so since I brought up Mr. Guthrie, I would say that the second thing in episode 4 I really want to talk about is this whole power play that has happened. And I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not surprised that Mr. Guthrie going against his daughter. I'm not surprised that actually happened, because we knew from the premiere that he was against Flint's plan about going after the Urka. We knew that, right? And so him deciding to, I guess you could say, double cross Eleanor, if you will, it kind of makes more sense, especially since it seems like his main motivation is to save his own neck. Now, of course, there was the conversation with him and Mr. Scott about, oh, you know, help me save Eleanor from herself. I don't really think that's his main concern. I don't. I think it's just to save his neck, because remember, he's now a wanted fugitive, you know. So, but I'm not surprised that it happened, and I'm not surprised that Eleanor went and lied to Mr. Scott the way she did, because haven't I been calling this for the longest time? Haven't I been calling that? What did I say? Eleanor is rash. She's hot-headed. She's prideful. She doesn't think things through. She just jumps into the fucking fray. So I'm not surprised that she did what she did. But I'm going to get back to that in a minute, because we found out some of the repercussions of that. Once again, look, this is going to be Eleanor's story, I feel like, the entire season long. It's going to be consequences and repercussions. That's all it's going to be. So, but I'll get into more detail with that stuff when I jump into episode 5. Now let me see. The last thing I wanted to talk about from episode 4. I don't really care. I don't really care too much about what was going on with Captain Vane. Mainly because I just feel like all that was just a setup for an epiphany, which I think he finally had in episode 5. But I'll talk about that more when I get to episode 5. No, the only other real thing in episode 4 I wanted to mention was, like I said, you all will remember from one of my previous reviews when I talked about Silver trying to play the crew of the Walrus against each other, and him potentially trying to play Captain Flint against his crew. We saw in episode 4, we saw him try, and we saw him fail. And yet Flint still heard him out at the end of the episode. I don't think that scene really had much weight, especially seeing how in episode 5, how, you know, him and Billy had, you know, Flint and Billy pretty much just, they resolved that little conflict, that little issue right then and there. So I don't think, I don't really think that scene holds that much weight. I think in that whole, I guess you could say, triangle, if you will, in that little conflict between Flint, Billy, and I guess I would go ahead and say Billy and Gates would be in one corner and then Silver would be in the other. I think that whole conflict has much more just to do with Flint and his own crew than with Silver. You know, at this point, I really think Silver is just that the raven on the chamber door, if you will. He's just the one throwing in his 2 cents, trying to stir the pot. But I feel like there's so much internal conflict at play already that it might not even matter. But who knows? We'll see. So anyway, so now let's go ahead and let's jump into episode 5. Because episode 5 was, I don't know, just kind of crazy, because, you know, with episode 4 we had pretty much episode 4 was following up where 3 left off, where it was kind of the, you know, the preparation episode, everyone gearing up for the hunt for the orca. But then episode 4 was the one that kind of introduced all these, you know, oppositions. You know, the fact that they had to get the guns from Captain Bryson. The fact that, you know, Guthrie was going ahead and putting his plan into action. The fact that, you know, the crew of the Walrus had to, you know, do their maintenance on the ship and whatnot. So, you know, it was all these little opposition, you know, kind of this is the shit we need to settle before we can do what we need to do sort of thing. And now, with the hunt for the Adrama key, it kind of took the plan and just completely, you know, took it into left field, because now here's another problem that they have to deal with. And then, of course, with Eleanor, she's kind of been set up by her dad. So now, let's see. Eleanor's whole problem was that she was trying to keep the business together. She was having difficulty with that. Flint hunt for the orca was supposed to be the ticket out, but then her dad decided to go ahead and double cross her. So now that that looming threat, that preeminent doom that was going to shut down the entire operation has now just sped up tenfold. You know what I mean? So yeah, this episode was kind of weird because it just kind of took it was just fuck your plan. That's what I'm naming this episode. Fuck your plan. Because that's what it did. It just kind of took everyone's plan. It was like, fuck you. It's not going to happen. So, okay, so let's go ahead and let's get back into the Guthries. Because I don't know. I just found it really... I just found this... I think this was the most interesting thing about the last two episodes. How Mr. Guthrie just literally took the business up from under Eleanor, right? And we would think that she would fold. She decides not to and instead comes up with this elaborate plan to, you know, make an alliance with some of the other captains to try to keep everything afloat. Now, of course, there's some more opposition there, but now here's the thing. Okay, she's trying to go ahead and keep the business going, but at the exact same time, there's an uprising going on. Completely independent of, you know, what her father and what Captain Bryson and what Mr. Scott was working on. The pirate crews themselves are getting ready to uprise, right? So it's kind of crazy. But I will say this though, the one thing I like about this whole story, about what's going on with Eleanor and whatnot, is that this is the type of conflict where I feel like this is her conflict. This is the thing she's supposed to be doing while everyone else is out at sea. Because I think Captain Vane's going to be doing something else, which I'll mention in a couple of minutes. But anyway, pretty much like ideally, while Flint's out hunting for the orca, Eleanor needs something to do, right? So this feels like the appropriate thing. This feels like what she's supposed to be doing. And now let's go ahead and let's mention Captain Vane, because this is another, once again, fuck your plan. Fuck your plan. What Captain Vane got going on with his little hallucinogenic epiphany, if you will, this is the point where I think now he's trying to take the island from Eleanor. I think that this whole pirate riot uprising thing, I think Vane's going to try to capitalize that and use that to his advantage. You know, try to get some leverage on Eleanor, if you will, to take over the island. So it's very interesting to see how Eleanor's kind of found herself in between these two men. On the one hand, there's her father, who's on the larger scale is trying to take the business from her, or has taken the business from her, and it seems like on the other side you got Captain Vane, who's trying to recoup from the fallout. Which, isn't that what I said? Now granted, I did say he would do it to Flint, but isn't that what I mentioned in my very first review of Black Sails, that I said Vane was going to be that character to stick around to whatever happens, no matter the fallout. He's going to be that guy in the aftermath to reap the benefits, to reap the what's left, right? I mentioned that in my very first review, and now I see that it's going to be against Eleanor, not Flint. Not really. Yeah. So before I conclude this review with my thoughts on, you know, the hunt for the Andromache, as it were, the chase for the Andromache, if there were a couple of other things I wanted to mention, still don't know what to think about the thing going on with Max, because like I said, now I don't know. I still don't know what her place in this story is supposed to be, other than it seems like they're using her kind of as a, I don't want to say a crutch necessarily, but it seems like she's just that, it seems like she's that figure that's kind of, I don't know, just caught in the middle. No, figure is not the right term. You know, no. This is what Max comes across to me now as collateral damage. That's what Max is starting to come across as, and this is what I mean. Max and her situation and her character's role in this story as of right now seems to be more about her representing the repercussions of Eleanor's actions. You see what I mean? Where she's that constant reminder, because in the conversation between Eleanor and Silver in this episode, Max was in the middle of that conversation, how Eleanor was trying to justify her actions. Well, no, actually, she was trying to accuse Silver. You know, she was trying to justify why she doesn't like him, her animosity towards him, and she used Max as a crutch then. She kind of used Max as a scapegoat almost to validate that, right? But then when Silver threw it back at her, then all of a sudden Max becomes the reason why she spited Captain Vane in the first place. Which I don't deny that, but I think there's more to it than just that. But what I'm saying is, because of the way that Max has been thrown around, quite literally, both physically in the conflict and then figuratively in the conflict, it seems like she's supposed to be that constant reminder. You know what I mean? And she's the proof. She's the walking, talking testament to Eleanor's fuck-ups and to everyone's animosity towards Eleanor because of her fuck-ups. You see what I mean? So and I don't know. I just really want them to put Max back into a position where she's a main player again. Because remember, those first 2 episodes, she was a main player. She was I mean, you know, she was still a cog in the wheel, but she was a pretty big cog in the wheel, you know. She, you know, when she was working as the, you know, the liaison, the middleman between Silvers and the crew of the Ranger, you know, she was, you know, a mover and a shaker. She was making moves. So I just don't want her to be stuck in this position of the victim, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And granted, you could argue that she's not, because like Silver said in this episode, oh, well, she chose it, and everyone kept asking, why didn't you leave? Why did you stay? This, that, and the other. And that's all fine and dandy that they, you know, made it. They set it up to where she has her own convictions and she does what she does for a reason, and she stands by her reasons. But at the same time, look at the reality of the situation. She is still very much a victim. Regardless of the reasoning behind it, that's the circumstances. That's the reality of her situation. And I don't want them to keep her in that spot, because I think she's just too good of a character. If that's the case, I think they'll be misusing a perfectly good character, especially since she's one of the main female characters of the show. So, alright. Now let's talk about the chase for the Andromache, which, my God. We had a last-ditch effort to catch up to the ship, which I thought was actually very well done, beautifully shot. I love how they did the sea effects and everything, rocking up the shots of the ship dipping in and out. I mean, just that whole sequence I thought was actually shot. This is me getting technical, but actually shot like fantastic. I loved it. And then of course there was the whole battle when they had to board and whatnot and all that type of jazz. And then of course this really weird kind of stalemate that happens. I mean, Flint and the crew take the Andromache, right? They board that sucker. But Captain Bryson, we find out, is such a clever motherfucker that he manages to barricade himself within the ship, but to set it up in a way to where Flint can't come after him. And then not only that, so then of course it becomes this whole question of, okay, well, he can't wait it out forever, right? Or like Flint said, well, what's to stop me from just you know, leaving and burning the ship on my way out. Then Bryson, we find out at the end of the episode, went ahead and already flagged down the Scarborough for reinforcements. I mean, that's a clever, I'm sorry, man, that's a clever ass motherfucker. and you know what else? I like how Flint and Bryson, there's multiple scenes throughout episode 5 where they're both commenting on, okay, I'm gonna do this. But he knows that I'm gonna do that. So instead, I'm gonna do this. Like Flint does that, I think, twice in the episode when he's talking to Billy, and I think the other time when he's talking to Gates, where he mentions it's like, okay, yeah, Bryson would expect us to do this, or Bryson would do this, but he knows that I know that, so no, he's gonna do this. And then we see Captain Bryson do the same thing. It's like, okay, wait, no, Flint's gonna do this, but he knows that I know that he would do that, so no, we're gonna do this. And so like that battle of the minds, I love stories where you have two characters that are both clever and cunning enough to where there's this battle of wits going on. Any of you all who have seen my Game of Thrones reviews will remember that that was one of my favorite things about Lord Varys and Tyrion's relationship, because it was like that. By extension of that, Varys and Littlefinger, that battle of the minds type thing. But and yeah, so now, oh God, the situation is just so crazy, because now Flint, I mean, he's caught between a rock and a hard place. You know what I mean? He's now, you know, he was the pursuer, then the aggressor, and now he's been flanked by, you know, the Navy. So it's going to be very interesting to see how exactly they get out of this. But you know, once again, going back to what I said, going back into what I was talking about with Eleanor, what's cool about all this is that Flint has no fucking idea what's going on the island. So even if he manages to escape this and seek refuge back ashore, then he's gonna have to deal with the shit that's going on over there. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting season, to say the least. But anyway, that's going to go ahead. That's going to wrap up this week's Black Sails review. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. And once again, like I said, in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on episodes 4 and episode 5. And once again, as always, expectations, predictions, speculations, by all means, the comment section is yours. Run wild with them, because I love them. Run wild with it. Anywho, so what's coming down the wire later this weekend? I will finally be able to do my Sons of Anarchy Season 6 review and my Legend of Korra Season 2 review. I know I've been promising that for the last couple of weeks, but I finally have the time off this weekend to do it. Finally. So I'm going to get to those. Those will be out either Sunday and Monday or Sunday and Tuesday, because I think Monday I might have another review coming out on Monday. I'm not sure yet. And I tell you this though, got a really exciting week coming up, because this upcoming Thursday, Vikings Season 2 kicks off. And yes, the reviews are returning. Yes, I can't wait for Vikings. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Alright, so anyway, with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.